lead.
In Vancouver Centre, which I know well, a split vote helps the Conservatives. If you have strong NDP, strong Liberal vote, the Conservatives have the edge, and I'm hoping that will happen tonight for Kim.
But as you say, great changes, because the split vote used to advantage Ron Basford once upon a time. Now it advantages the Tories.
Right. There are more seats in British Columbia this time, by 4, in fact. Perhaps we should just indicate that there has been this redistribution across the country. For those in BC who are seeing that extra number of seats, that takes BC up to 32. It takes Alberta from 21 to 26 and takes Ontario from 95 to 99 to give us a 295-seat House. Where are they all going to sit? It looks jammed in there now.
Getting bigger. There are real problems. It was, of course, difficult for the Conservatives last time around because they had too many to fit on their side of the House. That problem has at least been solved. It's balanced out this time.
Well, they'll have to go to the British style, first come, first serve, into the benches, and those who don't get in, don't get in.
Jack Webster in our studio in BC TV has someone there who is familiar to many of us to talk to. Jack?
Well, we can't tell you a hell of a lot more than you've told us about the BC election results yet, but I have with me a stormy social creditor, used to be a cabinet minister, Grace McCarthy. Grace, as a good right-winger, I suppose you're happy as a lark with, what's his name, Mulroney's victory.
Well, I'm neither a federal Liberal or a federal Conservative. I'm a non-socialist, and I'm pleased to know that the free trade agreement is safe in Canada, because I think it's good for our people and it's good for employment. And I'm very happy about that. So I wasn't really voting party. I was voting
free trade.
For free trade. And I'm
without
pleased,
which we cannot live.
And I'm pleased that Canada has won on free trade tonight.
And you don't care how many NDPs are elected tonight? Maybe a dozen, eh?
What I am pleased about... Well, we'll see. You mean in British Columbia?
Yeah. In our own separate elections.
Yes. Well, we have our own separate election. Our timing, for all of those who are watching across the country, we see the rest of the country come in, and unfortunately, we get the results here all on our own.
I've nagged that all night for you. Here is a Liberal tactician. Is that right? Kyle Mitchell. Very down in the mouth tonight. You really got hammered, didn't you?
I think we did very well. 6 weeks ago, if you had thought that we would be in the position we are tonight, you might have said we've been drinking too much. It's been a good gain for us. We've got a strong opposition now to watch over the government, the free trade agreement, which many have some concerns about. I think the opposition will take a role in ensuring
and a good Liberal leader.
And a good Liberal leader.
Who'll stay there.
Who will stay there.
Yeah, what about locally in British Columbia? What do you think is going to happen there tonight? Can you possibly win more than Turner's seat?
That one is a sure, and I think beyond that, it depends on the local BC vote on free trade.
Mind you, that business of this phony John Turner really must have infuriated the Liberals, because they claimed the returning officer didn't even check the proper credentials of this rhinoceros fellow, didn't they?
On the poll today, the ballot today, there was 12 names, and the bottom 2 were Turner. The party designation was incredibly small, so many people would find it very difficult to distinguish the two.
That kind of thing should be cleaned out.
Hello, Jack. We want to look at a chart here for a minute, because I'm told that we may have some potential upsets there in British Columbia. That's the judgment I'm getting from the computer desk here, so let's see what they have to say. Just watch this one with us. In Kootenay East, we've got Sid Parker of the NDP there leading by 216 votes over Stan Graham. And many people would say that's a surprise. In Kootenay West Revelstoke, there's Christensen of the NDP leading Bob Briscoe by 16 votes. And in Okanagan Shuswap, McWilliam of the NDP, prominent member of that party, leading Spoor, but just by 1 vote, 5 out of 204 heard from. And here's Prince George Bulkley Valley again. Gardner of the NDP over Harkins of the Liberal, and Valerie Cordeman of the PCs is trailing there. That could go on for a while, that one. And here's the Saanich Gulf Islands, by the way. NDP 67, Crofton PC 41 votes behind. What do you think of all this, Jack?
None of that is very surprising at all, because you must understand that the opposition to the Tories here is partly fueled by the opposition to Van der Zalm. And the fact that conditions in northern British Columbia are not quite as halcyon as there are in that lovely, blessed Ontario. Nor do we get as much of the old payola out of the federal government as you people in the east get. And we are confidently expecting the Tories here to lose quite a few of their 18 seats. Not the least bit surprised, especially not in the in the Kootenai West ones.
Do I detect that one of Canada's leading journalists, commentators, is a pro-free trader?
No, you don't.
Oh, sorry, I thought I did. Okay.
I'll tell you what your commentator on the coast really is. He's again the lot of them. And after the last election, with the incredible lack of decent information and hysteria presented by all sides, it'll take a lot to rebuild my faith in the political system in this country.
Jack, don't go away. We'll be back to you. I have to take a break right now. We'll be back with more election night results right after this. Referred to many times as Davy, has been elected easily in Esquimalt, Juan de Fuca in that new riding there. Dave Barrett, the former leader of the NDP, personality in British Columbia, will be moving to Ottawa into the House of Commons to be a member of the NDP caucus. That's no surprise. He's cleaned up with over 66% of the vote there.
People will be asking him a question about the leadership issue as well. Should Ed Broadbent decide this will be his last run, Dave Barrett will be sitting there in Ottawa ready to go. Perhaps maybe Roy Romano, who we spoke to earlier tonight as well from the province of Saskatchewan.
And a real race going on still in Vancouver Centre. We now have Campbell in the lead there, 181 to 96. And that's with 3 out of 231 polls heard from. So that could go on for a while.
Still
obviously.
good news for Pat Carney, but it's not over.
Right.
And who is in second place, the Liberals or the NWT?
The NDP is in second place at this moment, and Enemark isn't far behind. He's only 9 votes behind Den Hertog.
Sounds like a typical Vancouver Centre election.
You've been through a lot of them, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The party standings in BC, well, this may be a little behind, I'm not sure, is 15 NDP, PC 9, Liberal 1 at this stage. And we'll update that for you in a moment. Henry Kowalski is at the headquarters. Oh, we're not ready for him just yet? Okay. We have some returns that we can put up on the screen to show you how things are going in BC in individual ridings. There's Black of the NDP in New Westminster Burnaby with a 17-vote lead over Taylor.
That's Pauline Jewett's old
Old
seat.
turf. Iona Campanola's old turf.
Riding.
There you are, Iona.
Jim Fulton won't seem to have any trouble with that lead.
No, as a matter of fact, we are declaring him elected. There's Skelly in Comox, Alberni.
That's Ray Skelly.
That's Ray Skelly, right? Bob Skelly is, yes. Bob Skelly, the former leader of the NDP, is also running in this election in BC. 22-vote lead there for Skelly. All right, Henry Kowalski is ready now. He's in the headquarters of Johanna Den Hertog in Vancouver Centre. Henry.
Lloyd, we thought at this point it might be appropriate, given that the NDP hasn't performed up to what they thought they would have in this election across Canada, notwithstanding their results here in BC, that maybe perhaps we should ask whether people think it's time for a change in leadership. And I'm just going to walk over here and talk to some people that are here at the Johanna Den Hertog headquarters. Excuse me, sir. Would you think that it's time for a change in leadership in the New Democratic Party, given
Yeah, I
that
guess so.
perhaps Ed didn't deliver what he said he was going to deliver?
No, I don't think so at all. I think Ed more than delivered what he promised to deliver. I think expectations of Ed were extremely high. I think the Liberals were lucky to fluke into a media. I don't know, one of those things that happens that could only happen on TV, and I think, unfortunately, a lot of people were convinced by a show of emotion that I didn't find convincing myself.
All right, thank you very much. Excuse me, ma'am. I was just wondering if you could tell me, given the way the NDP has performed in this election, whether you think it's time to consider a change of leadership on the national level for the NDP.
No, I don't, not at all.
Why not?
Very pleased with Mr. Broadbent, and I'd support him next time.
Do you think that if you're pleased with him, are you telling me that the NDP party is pleased with reaching a plateau of 30 to 40 seats and staying there?
No, I think we should go higher, but I'm just saying that I'm pleased with Ed Broadbent as a leader. I'm a bit disappointed with the results tonight, but...
Okay. Excuse me, ma'am. Could I ask you the same question? Do you think that given the NDP performance in this election, is it time for a change of leadership? Is it time for Mr. Broadbent to step down?
No, absolutely not. No, I feel he's a very strong, capable leader, and he has a lot still to offer the party, and I hope he'll stay with us.
Okay, Lloyd, there are some very quick and random opinions here from Johanna Den Hertog headquarters.
Thank you. Doesn't seem to be a consensus. Thanks very much, Henry. And there won't be any action on that, one would suspect, for quite some time.
Ed Broadbent will obviously take a look at these returns. There's no hurry for him to make that kind of a decision. So
no, they've all got 4 years now to sit and look at this.
Exactly.
A 4-year mandate. In fact, no tactical advantage, even if tonight Ed Broadbent decides in his own mind it's time to go, or John Turner makes that same decision. In practical, tactical terms, the longer you wait to go, in many ways, the better it is, because you want to be closer to the next election to have all the fanfare of a leadership race.
But he may be looking at his strategists. I think Broadbent may be looking at the type of campaign they ran, because after the debate they didn't seem to be prepared for what happened at that time. And so obviously he's going to be looking at his team.
I think all of the leaders will do that afterwards as they go through the entrails for the next 2 weeks.
No,
we are declaring, excuse me, Pat, we're declaring elected now in the Western Arctic Nickerson for the PCs. So that remains a Conservative seat there. And on the elected candidates you see flashing on the bottom of your screen, here's some, I was going to say that Teclosi Mai has been defeated now in Gatineau-Lalive. That fight has been going on for some time, but she's definitely out of it now. Mark Assad, the Liberal, elected. Here are the NDP party standings, and take a look at this. NDP 18, PC 10, Liberal 1.
Let me just jump in here. I think Nickerson perhaps is going in second place, the Liberal moving up there into first place in the Western Arctic. British Columbia popular vote. The Conservatives down 8 points. The NDP up just 1%, no movement at all from the Liberal Party. But there again, that interesting figure, 7% for the Reform Party of Canada, 15% next door in the province of Alberta. They're starting to have an impact.
They're sending a message.
Yes, I just want to also clarify something that you pointed out here a minute ago.
Is this right? We got this
That's
straight?
right. We've got it at upset now. Blondin.
Here we are.
There it
Western
is. Blondin, the Liberal, does upset Nickerson. There it is. We are declaring Blondin, the Liberal, elected in the Western Arctic.
She's from a well-known native family.
No.
Let's go to Mission Coquitlam. Here's Jerry St. Germain's riding. At this moment, the NDP, Langan, has a 48-vote lead over the Minister of Forestry.
Reform Party strong in there. Is that not the case, Pat, that we're seeing?
I think that is just a very good two-way race between the NDP and the PCs. Again, that's in an area where ridings have changed and patterns of voting have changed. And I think that'll be a fight. Tom Siddon's re-election is no surprise to anybody.
That's right. Tom Siddon, Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, elected out there in Richmond, BC. And we're moving through BC, and we're coming up to the total numbers. We're 294, 295. We've heard from all but one riding in the entire country now. That's somewhere in BC, obviously, because we have seen everything else. So there's one riding to be heard from in British Columbia, indeed. And it's 170 PCs, 83 Liberal, 41 NDP. And we are not going to take a breakaway. We were just about to break away, but we're not going anywhere. So hang on, stations, please. Please stay with us, CTV stations across the country. We're going to Oshawa to hear from Ed Broadbent.
Begin my comments tonight by offering the Prime Minister congratulations. He received a large mandate from the people of Canada. He now will be calling Parliament back before Christmas, and I want to assure the Prime Minister that as leader of the New Democratic Party, we are unequivocal in our commendation for the victory tonight. The Democratic will has been expressed, but as an opposition party, we will continue to do what we have done for the past, which is to fight hard, whether it's on taxes, whether it's on the environment, whether it's concern for jobs, or about some of the implications, as we have described it, of the trade deal, to stand up strongly in opposition to protect the interests of average Canadians wherever they may live. immediately congratulations to all those men and women who ran for the New Democratic Party and were elected across Canada. It would not be accurate to say, as leader of the party in this election, this historic election, that I am not somewhat disappointed. Of course I am. We set out this campaign to do better than we did. We gave it our best. And as I said just a moment ago, the people of Canada have expressed their will. Nonetheless, I am pleased to be able to note that in this election, we as a party, with the forecasts that are before us now, are going to elect somewhat over 40 seats, which is the largest number in the history of the New Democratic Party of Canada. It is particularly important in terms of what the historical role of this New Democratic Party has been, for me to say that I have been pleased to see our big increase in support in the province of Quebec. I would very much like to be participating in the joy that comes from winning tonight in new seats in the province of Quebec, but at least I'm participating in the joy of seeing our vote very significantly established and to be able to compliment our men and women who ran throughout that province and who have laid the foundation for future success in that province for all of us. I add immediately that I am pleased in an equivalent way with the fact that we are now breaking ground in the province of Alberta. It looks like we've won. I'm confident that that will happen. That, too, is a major blessing, if I can put it that way, for the forces of truth, beauty, goodness, and light all across Canada to be in there in Alberta.
I congratulate the Prime Minister for his victory. It's obvious that the population of Canada has given its support to the present government, to Mr. Mulroney, and I don't hesitate in offering my congratulations. But as the leader of an opposition party, my responsibility is to continue during the next parliament, as in the past, to work for the ordinary people, for the average man all over Canada. We, the NDP, intend to work in the future to obtain equity in our tax system, to emphasize the creation of new jobs for a healthy environment. These are the needs of Quebecers and other Canadians. And as the leader of an opposition party, I intend to work a lot in the future, as I've worked in the past. And at the same time, I'm very proud of our candidates in the province of Quebec. They have worked a great deal during this campaign. They have run a wonderful campaign, and they have started establishing our roots in this historical province, in this province which has a distinct society, and I have a lot of confidence in the future that the Quebecers will elect the NDP as in the other provinces. Thank you.
I conclude my comments through you, my friends here, to all the people of Canada in expressing my gratification for the support that they have given our candidates in every region. I thank our candidates for fighting nobly and seriously for the cause of ordinary people, and I give my assurances to everyone that we will continue to do in the future what we have tried to do in the past, which is to fight with vigor, determination, intelligence, and honesty for the good of ordinary people in this land of ours, wherever they may live, in Atlantic Canada, in Quebec, in Ontario, in the prairies, or in British Columbia. Good night. We'll get on with the important battle of building a better Canada in the future. Thank you very much.
Ed Broadbent from his headquarters in Oshawa, and we just want to say down the line to all of our CTV stations listening in that we're going to try and get a comment from Ed Broadbent here from Mark Sixtrom on the microphone before he leaves his headquarters.
We will try and get him, Lloyd. They're holding us back from the door, and they definitely want to try and get him out of the building before he can talk to the press. That may mean that he's feeling rather more disappointed about all of this than he admitted on the stage, but the RCMP have formed a cordon here. We'll try and throw a question to him as he exits here. It's only a short few feet from the stage door to outside. There's Mr. Broadbent now. Mr. Broadbent, is 4 times enough? Mr. Broadbent has left the building. He'll be going back.
Well, we're not going to get Ed Broadbent at the moment, at least. Thank you very much, Mark, from Ed Broadbent headquarters in Oshawa. Undoubtedly a slightly dejected Ed Broadbent, but talking about a possible comeback eventually in Quebec. Here we have CTV projecting the election of John Turner in Vancouver Quadra. Hardly a surprise there, and Iona Campanola is clapping. And we are now going to take that break that we've been promising our stations down the line. But we will be back because we're not finished with British Columbia yet, and we have a few things to clean up before we close this down for the night on this fascinating election night in Canada. CTV News coverage of the 34th general election continues in a moment. Majority government for the Conservatives tonight, 170, Liberals 82, NDP 43. And there have been some major changes in the election map of this country, and we'll be back to look at them as we now move into the next chapter of our coverage on this election night of 1988. Exciting here on CTV.
From the CTV News Election Center in Toronto, Decision 88, reported by Pamela Wallen, Mike Duffy, Nancy Wilson, and Lloyd Robertson.
Well, hang on to your hats. We said it was exciting. Listen to this. Are you ready? There has been a breakthrough for the NDP in Alberta. A Tory has gone down to defeat. Bill Lessick has been defeated in Edmonton East. Ross Harvey, the writer, the broadcaster, has won it. We're declaring him elected in the riding of Edmonton East. So there it is, the first NDPer to be elected federally from Alberta.
That's where the NDP were hoping to make a breakthrough. The whole city of Edmonton, that whole area went very strongly New Democrat in the last provincial election. So that gave them a big boost, and they were hoping for a breakthrough, actually, and a few more than that. But that there is a dent, as you say, in the pure blue of the Tory map in Alberta is quite amazing.
All right, we're going to take a look at a few more ridings right now, Pamela. Actually, these are notables from the province of British Columbia from various parties. John Fraser, Speaker of the House of Commons, elected in Vancouver South. Port Moody Coquitlam, Ian Waddell, re-elected for the NDP.
He was in a tough fight against another incumbent. He's come through.
And in Delta, Wilby for the PCs has been elected there. Surrey White Rock, Benno Friesen back into the House of Commons again for the umpteenth time. He wins it by 527 votes, but that's just with 13 polls. We're calling that one, as you can see. Comox Alberni, Skelly, this is Ray Skelly, has a lead, and we're calling him elected there in Comox Alberni.
I think that's Bob.
You think that's Bob Skelly? That's Bob Skelly, former leader of the NDP, all right? Sorry, there are two Skellies, one Ray and one Bob, and they're both now in the House of Commons. And here is Horning, Okanagan Centre, for the PCs, declaring him elected. Vancouver South, Fraser in the lead there, declaring him elected.
He wants the Speaker's job again. We'll see if we'll have to have another election, of course, in this Parliament for that job.
So that's not clear. The rules don't indicate really what happens with the Speaker, so
just to
John
clear
will
up,
be very happy.
Just to clear up the Skellies one more time for you, because there are two of them running in British Columbia, for those who are confused about it. They are brothers. One is Ray. He has been in the House of Commons. One is Bob. He led the NDP in British Columbia for a short time. They both now go to Ottawa. Now, let's go over to the panel. We haven't heard from them for a little while, those Canada AM luminaries of ours, and see what they have to say about the way things have broken out tonight across the country with Nancy Wilson.
Well, certainly as we have watched some of the numbers coming in, our political pundits have marveled at the fact that the electoral map has changed quite dramatically. There has been history made for each of the three parties. Jerry, history made for New Democrats in Alberta.
Yes, Ross Harvey is by himself a sea change, not just because it's one seat, but because he's a great, exuberant guy, and together with Dave Barrett, I think they will make the House of Commons a lot of fun for our side and hell for the Tories, which is worth living for.
Statistically, it's been fascinating to see. If you look at BC at the present time, the Conservatives have a higher popular vote, but the NDP is winning more seats. If you look at Ontario, the Liberals had a higher popular vote than we did, and we won 5 more seats. Right. So you're getting some very different seat splits, different parts of the country. Obviously, the presence of a third party changes things in Ontario, and the lack of a substantive third party in terms of the Liberals in BC not really being there across the province provides some other distortions.
Michael, are you disappointed at all that John Turner seems to have no problem in retaining the seat of Quadra, but there are no gains?
I'm not disappointed in that at all.
Are you surprised?
No, I'm not. I mean, we knew from the very beginning that John Turner was going to do very well in Quadra. We're not surprised at that. We thought we had a shot at 1 or 2 other seats, particularly Texina in Vancouver Centre. That didn't happen. As I say, I think the strangest thing from everybody's point of view is the nature, not only is the nature of the House changed, but the nature of our respective caucuses has changed dramatically. I mean, the Conservatives now have nearly 40% of their members from the province of Quebec. We are reduced to only 13. We have a very heavy domination now relative to normal situation from the Atlantic provinces, Eastern Ontario and Winnipeg, which are not places where we've been traditionally strong. And the NDP caucus has changed quite dramatically as well. So I think what people should understand is that as the next Parliament unfolds, a lot of the emphasis of the individual parties will change, because the way you play a particular issue depends very much on the makeup of your caucus and where it's from, and that will be quite different.
And there's no doubt that what it says about the NDP, once again, and it has for many years, is that in a real sense, we are the party of a certain kind of Western alienation, not Alberta mostly, and not part of rural Manitoba, but that's what we've become, and that skews the whole nature of the party in the House of Commons.
All right, let's look specifically at British Columbia. The New Democrats have an edge right now over the Tories. What do you make of this, Jerry? Is this an anti-free trade sentiment, anti-Van der Zalm sentiment that we're seeing here?
I would guess it's a collection of all of it. I take Hugh's point, and we don't want to hide it. In fact, the Tories got more of a popular vote than we did. Ours was happily concentrated in a way that usually hurts us in the rest of the country. But I guess everybody who was discontented, either about free trade, or about Van der Zalm, or about Mulrooney, or about big business throwing its way to get in the free trade deal, came to us rather than to the Liberals.
Well, the other thing, Nancy, I think is important, because some of the questioning that went on when Mr. Broadbent was on the air would sort of suggest that he had not done very well. The fact is that I think the NDP wound up, relative to what perhaps they had hoped for going into the campaign, not nearly as well as they'd hoped for. But the simple fact is that they have 8 to 10 seats more in this election than they have ever had in history. And to that extent, I think Jerry and his NDP colleagues have got to be reasonably happy.
But you see, if we were going to consider ourselves the third party, we would have run a quite different campaign, and a lot of elements in the party don't want that. They want government now, and we're a long way from that.
What final comment?
Final comment is that if you look at how John Turner performed in this campaign in terms of pure numbers, broadening his base in the West, having done a superb job in the debate from his own perspective, there's no reason for him to leave public life either.
But if he did, he could leave it honorably. I agree. I agree.
And on that note, we must end. Thanks, gentlemen. Back to you, Lloyd.
Thank you, Nancy. Well, there you see it on the screen. All ridings have now reported from all 295 across the country. PC's 170, Liberal 82, NDP 43. There are some close races, however, so we may get some changes in that board yet before the night is out. Now, let's talk about this race in Selkirk, Manitoba. Howard Pauley, former Premier of Manitoba, went down to defeat tonight. Bjornsson for the PC won it.
And that's a serious loss, 4,000 votes.
It is indeed. And Jim O'Connell from our CTV correspondent on the prairies talked earlier this evening, just a few moments ago actually, with Howard Pauley, and here were Mr. Pauley's sentiments on this night of his defeat.
Regrettably, the split in the anti-free trade vote, the upsurge in the Liberal support, has meant the election of a Tory to represent the constituency of Selkirk. But the democratic process has spoken, and I know that you, as Social Democrats, as committed, hard-working New Democrats, as Social Democrats, that you will continue the battle, because I know the day will come, and it will come sooner rather than later, that again we will ensure that there is a representative in this constituency that represents the tradition of the CCF and the New Democratic Party.
A statement there from Howard Pauley from his riding in Selkirk. He was defeated tonight in his run to get into the House of Commons, former Premier of Manitoba, and he was saying at some points during this campaign that he wondered whether, in fact, some of the resentment that people in Manitoba felt toward his government had waned enough for him to take this chance. Well, that perhaps was part of the reason for his loss. Decision 88 on CTV continues in a moment. Vancouver Centre, Den Hertog of the NDP is back in the lead. Campbell second, Enemark third, and it is close.
That's going to go back and forth. Pat Carney's warned us of this, that this could...
I've won it by 2 votes and lost it by 85, so...
That's close.
So here we go now with a little go-around of what it's looking like in British Columbia at this stage. First of all, the popular vote.
Conservatives losing out there, down 9 points. The NDP, surprisingly, it's only a 1% increase, but when you look over on the other side, you see the reason why. The PCs and the NDP in a dead heat. It can't get any closer than that.
And look at the Reform Party of Canada on there.
Up 5, nearly 6 points.
We are going to Yellowhead right now, Alberta, and we're going to hear from Joe Clark. Let's plug in.
This has been a very good election result for Yellowhead and for Canada. For the first time in decades, a government that had a majority has been re-elected with a majority. There is a clear support in the country, all across the country, for the programs that we've been following and for the programs that we put forward. And I think that that is a great cause for celebration here, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you and our supporters across the constituency for the hard work that you've been doing. I want also to express my congratulations and appreciation to the other citizens of Yellowhead who supported other parties, because this was a very vigorous democratic election. I think that's the kind of thing that all of us approve. I congratulate the other candidates for their showing, and their workers for the interest that they showed in the democratic process. Most of all, of course, I want to thank you for the work that so many of you did for me right across the constituency. No election is without some regrets, and of course I regret, and I know many of you share it, that Maureen was not successful in her constituency in Carleton, Gloucester. There was a swing against the government in that whole section of Eastern Ontario, and she got caught up in that, but I know you would want to join with me in expressing your appreciation to the people who worked so hard for her in that constituency.
Joe Clark speaking from Yellowhead, commenting on the defeat of his wife tonight in
Yes.
Carlton, Gloucester.
First time in a long time they haven't been together on an election night because, of course, she was miles away, thousands of miles away in her riding.
Sven Robinson declared re-elected here in Burnaby Kingsway in Vancouver. And CTV projects Jerry St. Germain, Minister of Forestry, defeated in Mission Coquitlam. Jerry St. Germain defeated.
Another cabinet minister. That makes the list fairly long. But Pat Carney, you were saying you anticipated that, or it wasn't that much of a surprise. It could go back and forth.
Well, we knew that Jerry's seat was one of the ones where there was going to be a runoff between the PCs and the NDP. But I think he's the only cabinet minister in British Columbia who has gone down.
Yes, that's right. But there have been quite a few earlier in the evening from across the country. We haven't got a count on that yet. Mike and I were trying to keep track. We'll keep at it.
I've got my list here.
All right, I think we can go up to Baie-Comeau now and look in on the party again. We may be hearing very shortly from Brian and Mila. But right now, Craig Oliver, you're up and on the screen and looking well.
Thanks, Lloyd. We're building up a head of steam here as they eagerly anticipate the arrival of the Prime Minister and his wife. I don't think they've had so much excitement since the last time the Baie-Comeau Pioneers almost won their league here in this ice hockey arena we're at. The Prime Minister, when he arrives, will be preceded by a 15-minute sound and light show, lasers and real Hollywood North stuff, including 8,000 watts of power from the speakers. So I'm told you're not going to be able to hear me when that starts to happen. You're also not going to be able to see me because they're turning out every light in the joint for the sake of the sound and light show preceding the Prime Minister. He will then, after that, make a speech in which he will talk about free trade and Canada's place in the world.
Now, Craig, we know you're having a really good time there. We can see that. We can hear that. And you're surrounded by beautiful young women. We know you like that part of it. But a serious question now.
I'm getting married soon, Pam. Careful.
We've got this on national television. This is just as interesting
and
as the
it's
election.
about time.
You're not the only one who says that. So does her mother.
All right, I want to get...
Enough of this.
Enough of this, all right.
I do want to raise the question about Brian Mulroney. I know that the victory has been very secure. It's obvious there across the country. But is there any concern inside the PC ranks at this point that there's going to be some tough questions on free trade despite the mandate they've been given, that he is now on notice that this thing better go well for Canada?
Well, they feel that they're in a very good position to deal with the inevitable problems which will arise out of free trade. On their side is George Bush, very much involved in the negotiations. And more than that, the Secretary of the Treasury, James Baker, who is the man who really turned the whole thing around at the point when it was falling apart. So they know, as we all know, that there are going to be some difficult moments involving free trade, but they think they're in a terrific position to deal with Washington. The Prime Minister's people apparently have discussed the idea of his going down to Washington soon and meeting with Reagan and Bush. But if they don't decide not to do that, at the very latest, March or April, they will meet with the new president.
Thank you very much, Craig. We think, at least at this stage, that we'll hear from John Turner before Brian Mulroney makes the grand entrance up there. So let's go out to Vancouver, to the headquarters of John Turner in Vancouver Quadra, where Alan Fryer is standing by. Alan, anything happening there yet?
Well, I just want to say to Craig, Lloyd, that I hope he's enjoying himself there. There's no sound and light show here. It's more like a wake. In fact, I'm struck by how few people have actually shown up here. I'm looking around the room, and if there's 200, I would say it's actually more like 150 people have actually come. Mr. Turner is still at the hotel watching the last-minute results come in. He's about 15 minutes away, 15-minute drive. I'm told he'll be here at about quarter to the hour.
What are people telling you at this point, Alan? We've seen that he's elected in his riding. Does that mean he's going to stay?
Well, that's the big question. I've been talking to people here, Pam, and there's a couple of contradictory positions here. Some people are saying that while he lost the election, they really feel that he won the campaign, and that's Canadians.
That's the point, isn't it? We'll be getting back and hearing more about that, because that's a very good topic to end on. We have to take a break. We'll be right back. Decision 88 on CTV. In London, Middlesex, after a long night, Terry Clifford of the PCs wins the riding. Garnet Bloomfield will not be returning to the House of Commons, much to Mike's dismay, because he liked Garnet Bloomfield's red jackets.
He's the only guy who ever came into the House of Commons every day as a Liberal wearing that red golf jacket that he always loved so much. That seesawed back and forth all night. You know, we saw so many things decided so quickly, yet in that riding there were 30 votes back and forth all evening. Now Terry Clifford, the very popular member from that area, has held on to the seat.
Let's take a look now at some other ridings. Some of these come to us from British Columbia, some from other parts of the West. Vancouver Centre, here it is again. And this time Campbell is in the lead, Kim Campbell, 111 votes over Hertog. And Prince George Bulkley Valley Gardner, we are declaring elected there.
It's a gain for the NDP in British Columbia.
In Kootenay, West Revelstoke, Christensen of the NDP, another one of their prominent candidates who was taking a shot at getting into the House, he gets there. In Okanagan Centre, Horning for the PCs. We declare him elected. In New Westminster Burnaby, Black for the NDP. And she was the campaign manager for Pauline Jewett, as a matter of fact.
And a riding assistant. She was well known in the riding. Marie Taylor of the PCs did well there.
Here's Caribou Chilcotin, Lauren Greenaway's old riding. And Dave Worthy, who took over for him, did not succeed, at least not to this point. We haven't declared Langford of the NDP elected yet, too close to call just now. Parker and Graham in a fight there in Kootenay East that's going on. Stan Parker, lead now 270. In North Vancouver, Chuck Cook has a 279-vote lead over Hatton of the Liberals. And in Victoria, Bruin of the NDP, 380.
This has gone every which way tonight.
That's right. That's a tough one to call. In Surrey North, Karpoff of the NDP over Blair of the Conservatives by 200 right now. And it looks as though Victoria could be here for a while. Yes. And who knows what's happening there? Because that was Alan McKinnon's riding for years and years. And could it be that enough people voted to say, don't let free trade interfere with our pensions?
No, a lot of that is provincial vote. Reflects the provincial rating of the NDP in the Victoria area.
But it is a retirement community, and I think that that has an impact in there. There's a lot of older people in that riding. But when you see the NDP making a breakthrough in Alberta, anything's possible on this election night.
Henry Kowalski is in the headquarters of Johanna de Hertog, in that lead that's seesawing back and forth in Vancouver Centre. Henry?
Well, every once in a while, Lloyd, you'll hear a whoop here, and I just want to explain that results are going up on a tote board that's being kept by the party here, and when you hear that, you'll know that Joanna's pulled ahead. I'm standing now with Ron Johnson, who's Joanna Den Hertog's husband, and he also happens to be the coordinator for the BC campaign for the New Democrats. Is it over for Ed Broadbent as leader of the party? Is it time for him to step down?
Oh, I don't think so at all. I think the party's united behind Ed. He's a leader that's led us to the greatest showing that the party has yet had. And clearly we're not quite as far ahead as we would have liked to have been tonight, but it's a good showing nonetheless. And progress is slow and steady, and we carry on as the votes indicate.
But isn't the rationale for a political party to be elected and you just haven't been elected?
Well, of course, that's the rationale, and that's what we're working to do. And we've made some progress tonight, not as much as we'd like, and we'll carry on. I think that we do have a mandate from a significant portion of the Canadian population to fight the issues that have been raised in the election. Ed's done a very good job leading us in that regard, and I'm sure, I hope anyway, personally, that he'll carry on for a long time to come.
Now, Ed gambled, and so did the national organization, with their attention to Quebec. They didn't pay this time. He says there's a foundation there. But given his French, which is better perhaps than the average Canadians, is he still not a liability in that province? Do you need somebody who's perhaps more bilingual?
Well, I think that what would have helped would have been to elect an MP in Quebec tonight so that we would have someone clearly who would be able to act as the spokesperson in that province for us. And that was an effort that we made, and unfortunately it appears that it hasn't happened. I think we have to look at developing that kind of system. We have a good caucus committee, a number of people that do speak French, and we'll just have to work that much harder now because we don't have an MP from that province.
Now, Ron, you conceded to me that you thought the Progressive Conservatives had the best campaign because they counter-punched against John Turner best in the stretch.
Well, they must have had the best campaign because they won tonight. Clearly, if the question is, did the Liberals suddenly have a good campaign? No, I think the Liberals took a great gamble by running essentially a one-issue campaign, and they could not sustain that. And the effect of that was that they lost it.
I'd just like to point out one thing, Lloyd. Take a look at Saanich and the Gulf Islands. The Conservative there, Crofton, the incumbent, is just barely behind the leader. And take a look at the Reform Party votes there. They total in the thousands, and they've siphoned off Conservative votes that might otherwise have gone to the PC incumbent.
Yes, we've seen that, Henry, and that's quite remarkable. In fact, in Alberta, the last time we had a look at it, was about 14%, Pamela.
Nearly 15, and in British Columbia, 5, nearly 6% of popular vote for the Reform Party, so it's interesting.
We just want to note to those who were following the race up in the Yukon, we saw Audrey McLaughlin trailing there at one point. We're now saying Audrey McLaughlin for the NDP elected in Yukon, Eric Nielsen's old riding. She won that in the by-election. She's going to hang on. Let's go to the panel and hear what they have to say. Nancy Wilson, are your people set to go over there?
We are, yes.
Oh, the three are ready, believe me, and always loaded for bear. Gentlemen, we've certainly seen some remarkable developments throughout the course of the evening. Hugh, at any point in this campaign, were the Tories genuinely spooked after the leaders' televised debate? Was there a sense that it was all eroding?
No, I don't think the organization was ever spooked, really for two reasons. One, our own numbers never gave any credence to what the Gallup organization was suggesting. Secondly, we knew that our leader was perhaps the most effective at fighting as an underdog, fighting from behind, and that when it came to making the points that had to be made about our program and about the enemy, quite frankly, no one could do it as effectively or directly as Brian Mulroney. And I think that gave our troops tremendous encouragement. And the organization did simply what one would expect. It did its job. It fought back. It kept steel in its spine and did not step back from the fray.
I'd like quick comments from you, Michael and Jerry, just on the extent of voter volatility. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, we haven't. But I think what happened is interesting if you track this over the course of the election. When the Conservatives changed their advertising strategy about 10 days ago, at that point, all the polls, aside from the one Gallup that seemed to be different from everybody else's, basically the polls showed the two parties tied at roughly 38% each. What happened over the last 10 days, 8 days really, I think, is that the Tories went up 4 points and we went down 4 points, and you could almost, the daily tracking the parties
Michael,
were doing showed that happening every night.
It's a nice short comment.
Jerry, we'll get back to you shortly. We've got to go. Back to you.
CTV News election coverage will continue, and still some close races in progress. But at this moment, the PC's elected and leading in 170, the Liberals in 81, and the NDP in 44. The Conservatives have attained a majority government. Prime Minister Mulroney will go back into office well over the 148 required. And that's the story on this Decision 88 coverage as we continue here on CTV.
CTV news coverage of the 34th general election continues. Decision 88. Here is Lloyd Robertson.
One of those ridings we're talking about, swinging back and forth, Kim Campbell of the Conservatives is in the lead once again now in Vancouver Centre, but it's very close, just about 150 votes at this hour. So we'll be watching that one for a while. There is a light show and a sound show going on up in Baie-Comeau right now.
We'll never find Craig in this crowd. We'll never find him.
He tells us this is work. It sounds like a party.
All right. They're waiting to hear perhaps from John Turner in Vancouver Centre, in his riding in Quadra. Right now, we have Mr. Clark, Joe Clark, standing by in his riding of Yellowhead. Good evening, Mr. Clark. Hello, Mr. Clark.
You can barely hear him.
We can barely hear you. Can you hear us, sir?
I think there's a different
All
microphone.
right. Well, I'm sorry. I think we have a microphone problem, Mr. Clark. Our apologies. We'll be back to you if you just stand by there, because we do want to talk to you tonight. All right, we'll get back to Mr. Clark. Just while we're vamping here for a moment, we might indicate that Mary Collins in Capilano Howe Sound is in the lead, and it looks like she will take that one and hang on to that for the Conservatives.
And if she does, she's cabinet material, because Jerry St. Germain, of course, has gone down to defeat in that province. Pat Carney not running. Needs some cabinet ministers from each of the regions.
Right. All right, Mr. Clark is now available and has the microphone situation cleared up. Good evening, Mr. Clark. Well, we thought we had it cleared up.
Hello, go ahead. Lloyd.
There we are.
I can hear you now.
Hello.
All right. Are we communicating?
I hope so.
Okay.
Yes, good to hear from you, Mr. Clark, and congratulations on your victory tonight.
Thank you very much.
Was there ever any doubt in your mind that you might have some real trouble out there in Yellowhead? Because it got a lot of national press, the Battle of Yellowhead, as it was described between yourself and Preston Manning.
I think probably some of the national attention, in fact, affected the result. But no, I thought I was going to win. I knew I was going to have to work at it. And that's what elections are about. This was a vigorously contested election in Yellowhead, and I'm pleased to be re-elected as the Member of Parliament.
Mr. Clark, what do you say about some of your cabinet colleagues? I think now the total is 6 going down to defeat this time round. People like Flora MacDonald or Stu McInnes. It's right across the country. What accounts for that?
I'm very sorry that excellent people like Flora and Stu McGuinness and Raina Tishin have been defeated, Tom McMillan. But that happens in elections. We'll certainly miss their presence around the cabinet table.
Are you getting a message? We're seeing, for example, even in your own riding, a 30% of the popular vote going to the Reform Party, an NDP breakthrough in Alberta, cabinet ministers going down, the political map changing. What's the message to you, despite the fact you've got a big majority?
Well, the message, Pam, the first message is that there has been a majority Conservative government re-elected. That's the first time that has happened in a long, long time. And I think that there is a clear national approval across the country for the programs that we've been following and those that we've put forward. But obviously, a party like ours that has spent more time out of office than in office has to continue to work for our support across the country. And there are important parts of the Canadian community where this government has to work harder, and we certainly will.
Mr. Clark, you have spoken from time to time about your concern over some elements of Western separatism, and we see the Reform Party in Alberta with about 15% of the vote tonight. Is this a concern to you about this continuing aggravation on the part of a certain percentage of Albertans and Western Canadians that they just aren't part of the mainstream?
Well, I think that there's a continuing obligation upon a national government to try to ensure that the nation reflects the priorities of all of its regions and all of its parts. And we've been trying to do that. We've made a lot of progress in that in the last 4 years. I said in the campaign that there's a lot more we have to do, and we want to get on with doing that. There's also, I think, a psychological bridge that has to be crossed by Western Canadians. We have been working on grievances for a long time, and my view is that what we should be looking more to the future now than to the past, because I think there's a great opportunity for us to make our mark upon the nation. We're certainly going to be able to do that in the government that's been elected tonight.
With divisions so strong in this country over the free trade issue, and again, I have to say, in spite of your majority, Mr. Clark, there's a lot of people still really concerned about that. Are you going to be able to pull it all together?
Pam, one of the skills of this government has been a skill at national reconciliation. When we came to office in 1984, there were very deep divisions in the country. We've overcome many of them. We intend to continue to overcome those kinds of divisions and build a strong national consensus. My view, in fact, is that we are on the way to building a much more constructive Canadian nationalism that will be of help to us not only in uniting the nation, but in accomplishing what we can accomplish internationally and elsewhere.
Did you want to say anything about the defeat of your wife tonight in Carlton Gloucester? Because I know that you were down there campaigning with her for a couple of days. She didn't make it. Disappointment? We were hoping to see perhaps the husband and wife team in the House of Commons.
I'm certainly disappointed. She would have been a first-class member of Parliament, but she fought a very tough campaign. She got caught up in a sweep against the government in the whole of that region. The people working with her did an excellent job, and Maureen and I have been through victories and defeats before. I regret that she won't be there with me in the House of Commons, but she certainly waged an excellent campaign. So did the people with her.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. We're watching Prime Minister Mulroney on the screen right now. He's entering the hall. This is the triumphal entrance at Bay Como among those thousands cheering him as he makes his way, the Prime Minister for a second consecutive term, leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, Prime Minister of Canada, Brian Mulroney.
Historians said the odds were against him, but he has pulled this off.
Well, it was quite miraculous when you think of it, because it looked for a while as though they really were in trouble. But it seemed that what pulled it out at the end was that marvelous organization they had, Pamela. They had the people going out to the ridings over the last couple of weeks that were soft. They moved them in there, they worked the field very well, and they brought it home.
And the province of Quebec, back up there now with 62 seats this time around. It is truly an amazing showing in that province.
In the end, the people trusted him. You know, they had to make a choice. There was always this question, is will you trust Mulroney? And finally, they decided to trust him and brought him 170 seats.
Well, that sounds like a pollster speaking, by the way, and it is. We just want to indicate that we have back at our desk now Martin Goldfarb, Liberal pollster and campaign strategist, and Bill Fox, former aide to Prime Minister Mulroney, and Mike Duffy is with us, of course, as we watch this scene unfold here at Baie-Comeau. A night of triumph for the Mulroneys, certainly, and what a victory.
One of the few times we've seen the children on the political stage. The baby's been along, but the Prime Minister's been very careful to shield the kids.
Throughout the campaign, school's been in.
Kids have been in school.
I have to tell you, I think this one's even sweeter than in 1984.
Even though it's smaller. Is there a sense of vindication, Bill, too?
Well, if I could make 2 points. First, the total numbers are smaller, but it remains a truly national government. And I think that's very important, particularly in the context of the Free Trade Initiative.
And in the province of Ontario.
And in the province of Ontario. And the second thing is that I think it's a very personal victory for the Prime Minister. When he first sought the leadership of the party, one of the elements of his leadership bid was that he would shake the yoke, if you like, of Réal and Quebec, and he's established the party in Quebec.
Just listen into this for a while. That group, I am told, is the ensemble Together.
And that's what they're singing, Together. We're together tonight.
And here is the Prime Minister.
Chers amis,
My dear friends,
chers amis,
my dear friends,
dear friends, encore une fois,
once again,
Baie-Comeau avait rendez-vous avec l'histoire.
Baie-Comeau had a meeting with history, and we've kept that date.
Ce soir,
Tonight,
ce soir, du fond du cœur,
tonight, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank all the people of Charlevoix who have shared our ideal of progress, opening, and unity for Canada. And in a very special way, I would like to thank Gérard Guy and his wonderful team of volunteers who worked for this great victory here tonight in Charlevoix County.
I want to speak to the candidates and the supporters of all parties who have tonight experienced both the joys and the sadness that democracy brings. I congratulate the members of the Progressive Conservative Party whose election in every region of Canada have given the Progressive Conservative government our second consecutive majority mandate. I express my sympathy with those candidates of my own party who were not successful tonight. For many of you, there will be another day. For all of you, there is the certain knowledge that you have stood not only in a campaign, but in a cause and have rendered significant service to Canada. To all of the candidates of all parties, both elected and defeated, all of you are to be commended for your commitment to democracy and for your love of Canada, which you have served so well tonight. To the leaders of the Liberal and the New Democratic parties, Mr. Turner and Mr. Broadbent, I congratulate them very sincerely on a hard-fought campaign. Because the issues were historic, the campaign was especially challenging, and I know how tough it is to lead a national political party, and I thought that they fought hard and they fought well, and I wish them and their families every good wish tonight on behalf of all Canadians. But however impassioned the debate, this campaign has shown that Canadians agree on what it is that we cherish most in our national life: our sovereignty, the protection of minority rights, our unique social programs, our concern for the environment, our commitment to regional development. These have their source in a Canadian tradition of tolerance and sharing. The election then was not about those values and those things that divide us, but the means to give greater effect to the values that we hold so dear. And so now it is a time for healing in the land. For in the end, irrespective of party preference, we are all Canadians. We all love our country. Nous sommes tous des Canadiens.
We are all
Nous
Canadians.
aimons tous notre cher Canada.
We all
and
love
we
our
all
dear
have
Canada.
put the national interest first. Aujourd'hui, les Canadiens et les Canadiennes ont dit avec assurance et sans équivoque la voie qu'ils entendent suivre. En nous
with
confiant la majorité
assurance
nécessaire
and
pour
unequivocally
remplir un
the way
deuxième
they
terme
want to follow
consécutif.
by giving us
Le pays affirme
the majority we
haut
need
et fort
for a second
son
consecutive
désir
term.
And
The
that was the election
country
it was all about.
affirms its
We will
desire
now,
for
with
unity.
the mandate, proceed with free trade. We will proceed with the Meech Lake Accord. We will proceed to bring greater unity and harmony and prosperity to Canada. L'accord de libre-échange
The free
et
trade
l'accord du lac
agreement
Meech sont les
and Meech
principaux
Lake
instruments
agreements
de
are
notre
the
prospérité
main
et de notre
instruments
unité.
of our prosperity and unity.
L'affirmation
They
éclatante
are
de ce nouvel esprit de
the
réconciliation
statement
nationale
of this
et
new
de renouveau
spirit of
économique
national
qui nous anime
reconciliation
tous.
and economic
Purpose of our economic
renewal
policies is
which
to achieve
leads us all.
not just more prosperity, but more opportunity and security for all Canadians. La route de l'unité, la
The way
seule
to
qui soit
unity,
viable.
the only one
La
which is
seule qui
viable,
s'inscrit
the
dans la
only one
légitimité historique de ce
which
pays, passe
can
de
be
toute
included in
nécessité
the historical
par l'épanouissement politique
legitimacy of this country
économique
has
du Canada.
to go through the
Voilà,
economic
à n'en
and
pas douter, le
political
sens
development of
inéluctable
Canada. This
du mandat que
is
nous a
the
donné. C'est
unavoidable
un mandat
meaning of
d'unité,
the mandate
un mandat
given to us.
d'équité,
It is a mandate
un mandat
of
de
unity, a
tolérance
mandate of equity,
et
a
un mandat
mandate of
d'ouverture
tolerance, and a
sur le
mandate of
Notre pays
opening
souscrit
on the world. our country tonight subscribes to the demands of the future. It responds to the call of what is the best it has. Today, Canada has decided to do a gesture of pride and realism, of maturity and self-confidence.
Canadians, a competent and a caring government, and a vision for a competitive and a compassionate society. A vision of a forward-looking and outward-looking country, a nation whose people are confident of their identity as Canadians, confident of their ability to compete with the best in the world. Comme un fils de Bécomo,
as a son from Bécomo, as the son of the North Shore tonight, I'm saying how proud and how honored I am to be the member for Charlevoix and the first Prime Minister to be re-elected in Canada. We are going back to our job today with pride in the knowledge that together we are going to build a more prosperous Canada, a more tolerant and a more united Canada. And inside that Canada, you are going to find a strong Quebec, strong provinces, and a durable unity and a solid unity for Canada.
And so, tonight is a night about unity. It is a night about Canada, the splendor of our nation, the coming together of East and West, the Atlantic provinces, the West, the great industrial heartland of Ontario, and the province of Quebec, coming together in a great affirmation of solidarity and unity, and saying to Canada and saying to the world, we are a proud nation that stands before you, one Canada with fairness and equality of opportunity for all Canadians from Newfoundland and Labrador to British Columbia. That is the message of tonight. Voilà l'enjeu et le résultat
This is the stake and the result of this election, the unity of Canada. Thank you very much.
And guess what they're playing? When Irish eyes are smiling, and indeed they are smiling tonight. Brian Mulroney, his moment of triumph. And as you said a few moments ago, Bill Fox, who's sitting right beside me here, former aide to the Prime Minister, this was sweeter than the first time.
It was indeed. You know, in 1984, well, when the election was called, we felt we were a little bit behind. The poll said we were a bit behind. But in the early going, we really felt we had some momentum. We really felt that we were rolling right to the end. Now, this campaign was remarkable in the sense that there was an early lead, a very dramatic swing, but an equally dramatic swing back. And with some of the results that we've seen tonight, traditional Tory seats lost to the Liberals, traditional Liberal seats won by the Tories, New Democrats popping up all over the place. I mean, there's been quite a significant realignment, I think, in the country.
In fact, for the whole year leading up to the campaign, you people were running behind, and for the 10 of the 12 months leading up to this campaign.
Well, and it's not all that many months ago that we were at 20 and 21%.
But you also have to look at the popular vote. I mean, it doesn't mean that much. You have to take a look at it by region, because even if you look at the total popular vote today, the Tories aren't that far ahead.
But this is really what Brian Mulroney promised Conservatives when he ran for the leadership. If you elect me, you're going to build a base in the province of Quebec that can give you the kind of allegiance and solidarity. And he's reached across Ontario, not totally ignoring Ontario, but into the West, and built this bookends on a national party that now encompasses both regions and both dreams.
Well, do you think he's made the mistakes he's going to make in Quebec now, Bill, that that's cleaned up? Things will look brighter for them there now that they've gone through those couple of rough years.
Well, I think, in fact, that what you have now is a Quebec caucus and Quebec cabinet ministers who are quite reflective of the post-referendum Quebec, the new Quebec. They're quite entrepreneurial. The combination of free trade and Meech Lake, I think, you know, he's managed to assemble the kind of team and put together the kind of policies that very much reflect where the population is. But Michael's point's well taken. It's the classic alliance of Sir John A., you know, the West and Quebec, and frankly, stronger in Ontario than
you
I
had hoped
anticipated.
for, exactly. Again, the Liberals saying they were hurt there in that province because of the three-way splits, the fights and races with the NDP over the free trade issue, and allowed you to come up and be much stronger.
Well, the splits were interesting, though. In BC, they went against us. You know, considering the amount of the percentage of popular vote that we had, I don't think we took as many seats as we might have expected.
Something else happened, too. When the campaign, we talked about this in the beginning, became a one-issue campaign, and you couldn't open up a front. The Liberals historically have done better with women, while when you look at the data now, they lost some of that.
We are going to try to get our microphone in there to hear from the Prime Minister. Craig Oliver is in that crash someplace. Craig?
We can hear him, we just can't see him.
Look out, look out. Congratulations. Thank you. A well-deserved victory. Thank you. Was it free trade? Do you think that in the end, that the end did it? That's why they voted for you?
Oh, I think it was a combination of things. That was an important one.
Was it Meech Lake? Were they saying yes to Meech Lake?
All of them.
All of it?
Good government and good people, good men and women.
How do you feel in your heart about this?
I feel terrific.
I feel terrific. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can always count on Craig to be in there no matter how tough the crowd.
Good for you, Craig. That's right. He made it. But that's what the Prime Minister is saying tonight. Everything did it. Everything came down on the right side for us, and especially, one would think, in the last few weeks of this campaign.
You know, often I don't think Canadians realize that the people who are paid to strategize don't strategize just about elections, but entire mandates. And I suspect some of this, the trying to reach out to Quebec, the economic initiatives and so on, were really all thought about 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, you do, in fact, have to have master plans. I mean, if you want interest rates to be at a certain level in 1988, you have to make very tough decisions early in the mandate in 84 and 85. You have to show the kind of discipline that Mike Wilson showed, for instance, to achieve that kind of result. It's the same with trade. It's the same with Meech Lake. And all of these things have to conform to an overall plan.
It's not something you can do in a few weeks of an election campaign.
Not something you can scribble on the back of an envelope, that's
Lessons
for sure.
learned, Bill Fox?
You want to see the scarf?
You've still got your hair, which is more than some of us can say.
I think there were lessons learned, yes. I think everybody was fairly new to the process in 1984. To go back to Quebec for a minute, we had a very new caucus, people who were very new to cabinet, very new to government, and I don't think you'll see a repeat of those kinds of things this time.
Are you also saying that you can live, all sad though they may be, the loss of cabinet ministers right across the country, that you've recruited a new crop, that those jobs can be filled?
No, I think these nights, and the one thing I think I've learned moving from journalism to the political side of things is that these things were a whole lot more fun when you didn't have personal friends running and perhaps
Jim
going
Kelleher,
down a
for
defeat.
example, a friend
Jimmy
of yours.
Kelleher is a friend of mine, and Sault Ste. Marie, a distinguished minister of the Crown, and it hurts to see the name pop up on the board and to hear you, Lloyd, say Jim Kelleher defeated in
That's
in
a
the
tough
Sioux.
riding, though. That's a tough,
It's a very
riding.
tough riding, and it's a very traditional NDP riding.
Right.
But those things hurt.
6 cabinet ministers in all, as a matter of fact, we counted up tonight, including Stu McGuinness, Tom McMillan, Flora MacDonald, Jim Kelleher, Rain Etition, which arrived as a shock to this desk, and Jerry St. Germain.
He will be analyzing the Rain Etition defeat, I'm sure, for days to come in Saskatoon.
I've had a look at the Tom McMillan riding coming from Charlottetown. It's intriguing there to see that the vote for the independent who opposed the fixed link and the Christian Heritage Party who opposed abortion, 845 votes, Tom McMillan lost by 360. Therefore, just 2 issues like that, a cabinet minister goes down to defeat on something that's very local.
Yeah.
We are still waiting to hear from John Napier-Turner, who is in Vancouver, and we anticipate that he will shortly be moving from his hotel room to the headquarters at Vancouver Quadra. And we're anxious to hear from him, so we trust he's on his way now, because we're going to hang by here for a little bit until we do hear from him.
Mike,
Some tough decisions facing Mr. Turner tonight.
And the party begins to wind down up in Baie-Comeau, the Prime Minister leaving. This is Decision 88 on CTV.
TV News Election Center in Toronto. Decision 88. Reported by Pamela Wallen, Mike Duffy, Nancy Wilson, and Lloyd Robertson.
And in that race in Vancouver Centre that is bouncing back and forth at this moment, Johanna Den Hertog of the NDP is in the lead by about 125 votes. So that's going to be a long night there. We are waiting for John Turner. We understand that he has left his hotel in Vancouver and he is on his way to his headquarters in the riding of Vancouver Quadra. That should be about 10 minutes, Mike Duffy tells me, about 10 minutes.
That's
You've walked it, right?
Well, I've watched people walk it. Let's put it that way. He's going to the Hellenic Community Center, where they have, as we saw earlier, a couple of hundred people waiting, but he's just this moment left the hotel van. I'm assured by my spy, the concierge at the front door.
Okay, right. Thanks, Mike. Let's go over now to hear from the panel. I'm sorry, Michael Kirby. We had to cut you off last time, and we apologize for that. Was it Jerry Kaplan? I'm
yes,
sorry.
Yes, it was.
Jerry, I'm sorry. Sorry.
I have enough trouble without you doing it.
Hugh and Jerry are nodding approvingly as soon as we talk about cutting Michael off. I do want to talk about the Prime Minister's speech in Baie-Comeau. Jerry, was it appropriate for the Prime Minister, sounding quite nonpartisan, subdued, statesman-like, talking about healing?
I wanted to talk about the whole party, because I don't know whether people understand that the people who organize that party in the Strobe Show, same people who do Mel Lastman's bar mitzvahs. First thing to say. I thought it was a wonderful speech. I thought the spirit of nonpartisanship was just what the country needed, and I thought the proposition that, in fact, the free trade debate was about shared ideals would have been very healthy had it been said occasionally by the Conservative Party during the election campaign, when in fact, forgive me for reminding people, they called people like Michael and me liars. Mm-hmm. And they didn't say, we all agree on the kind of Canada, we just have difference of the means. And to repeat a point we all made before, and I was happy with Hugh's response when I said it, we're going to hold the 100 members of the opposition, my party, are going to hold the Prime Minister to a proposition that says, within a free trade agreement that clearly will now pass, we better still have a humane Canada with its social services, with its Medicare, with tough environmental laws, and with regional equity. And if he does that, then he's going to have a good 4 years, and I hope my people support him.
Michael, do you sense that from what the Prime Minister has said tonight, that this is a more conciliatory, more attentive Brian Mulroney as far as free trade goes, and the kind of opposition or discomfort that a lot of Canadians are still feeling?
I think it was a very good speech tonight. I think it was exactly the thing you would expect, the kind of a speech you would hope you would get from a Prime Minister who has won re-election with a massive majority. I think it remains to be seen, of course, whether or not that is the way he behaves and his government behaves down the road. But I think everyone would admit that it was a good statesman-like message, and the kind of message that it was important for the country to get.
Hugh, where does the healing process begin?
Well, I think that in the way in which the trade debate is dealt with in the House of Commons, there will probably be points of view expressed by opposition members about the things that they are concerned about, and now that the country, by a measure of about 45%, have passed judgment on the free trade agreement overall, I think you'll find the Prime Minister is quite comfortable with being conciliatory. He is, a labor negotiator by training in terms of his legal background. I think conciliation is something which comes to him quite easily. Mm-hmm. And I think you'll find that in the House of Commons, in dealing with those issues, trying to address those issues, you'll find that that'll be the spirit that will, in fact, dominate the approach of the government.
Can I ask you, Senator, what is the Liberal-dominated Senate now going to do? I mean, does the Senate now accept
I hope they would all resign and leave a host of victims.
Look, the Senate said, and Mr. Turner said from the very beginning, that if once the people had decided this issue, which they clearly have, then the Senate would not put up any great obstacles to the trade bill. And talking of the people deciding, I think we must understand that when you get the Prime Minister got almost 50% of the vote 4 years ago, he got 45% of the vote tonight. And for Liberals out there who've had some very good election victories over the years, we should remember that the 44 and 45% of the vote was the maximum we ever got in the wonderful elections of 68 and 74 and 80 under Pierre Trudeau. And in a three-party system, and indeed in this election where you had parties like the Reform Party getting significant blocks of votes in certain ridings. To get 45% of the vote is a very significant mandate.
There has been a lot of talk during this campaign and tonight on election night about how nasty this campaign has been. Jerry, has it been one of the ugliest kinds of campaigns you've seen?
Let's say this. The professionals looked at what had to be done after the debate, the professionals in the Conservative Party, and they did it. And some of it was tough, some of it was tougher than I would have liked, but they showed that they were shrewd and good professionals. And frankly, in doing that, they made up for a whole lot of mistakes that the Tory party made in the way they tried to sell free trade in the last year and the first month of the campaign. But if you don't mind me taking advantage, I want to pick up what Michael said. The NDP has to realize that even though we have an unprecedented number of seats, we actually don't have any larger percentage of the vote than we did in 1980 and 1984 and a whole number of campaigns. And the NDP has to give some thought now, I think, to its role again in Canadian life. Are we going to government? Are we going to be the conscience of the nation? Whatever it is, I think there's a confusion now that the expectations of this campaign haven't been met. And I think my party has to do some serious looking at its own navel for a while.
And on that conciliatory note, I'll get you to end there. Gentlemen, thank you. If we don't have a chance to reconvene, it's been a pleasure, but I'll see you in about 7 hours on Canada AM anyway.
I think it's 6,
see you soon. Look forward to it. Here's Lloyd.
Thank you. You've all been wonderful over there, but don't run away just yet because we're waiting here from John Turner, and the face you see behind us right now is Jack Webster in Vancouver. Hi, Jack. It's still going on in Vancouver Centre, we see. A bit to clean up out there.
I think Joanna's ahead by about 500 votes now. But let's be gracious from the West Coast and congratulate the Prime Minister.
Change. Jack,
who said that.
That was Mike Duffy, your old pal, the Duff here.
Listen, Duff, let's be gracious from the West Coast, as I said, and shut up for a couple of minutes, because the Prime Minister won it fair and square. Mind you, sitting here on the West Coast watching the Liberals rolling out of the Maritimes, and then into Quebec, where they won almost too many seats. About a third of the seats, and that has been traditionally, I think, somewhat unhealthy for the nation. And then pick up the strength across the prairies a little bit, until we came to British Columbia, which I think is the classic demonstration tonight of the fact that in BC, where the Liberals have no real presence, the fight is between the NDP and the Tories, and it demonstrates the real deep concerns there are about free trade. About water, about energy, about the 15% solution on softwood lumber, about which we are not happy yet, about the possibility of countervails. And I think Mr. Mulroney would be well advised to use his commanding majority to have a very good look at some of these particular aspects of free trade, which very much on the West Coast are on the top of our minds. Now, Turner, everybody's waiting to talk to Turner. Turner ain't going to tell you tonight that he's going to quit. Turner has doubled his representation. Turner brought the free trade fight, although I think he overdid it on Medicare and a few other things, he brought it into very sharp focus for us out here. And maybe by pushing it too much, he demonstrated the very weaknesses of the Tory government, which had a pathetic attempt, didn't even try to sell free trade until such time as the anti-free trade people got into high gear. And there are a couple of things we must watch for the future. I myself have been pretty much disgusted by the incredible expenditure of money by the non-political party people who won that charter thing in the courts.
You talking about the National Citizens Coalition, that kind of thing?
Not only them, but all the other people involved in that, where we're being absolutely immersed by these somewhat hysterical ads on all sides. We could do well to hold that down, I think, particularly. But I do feel that we can no longer nag at Mulroney for winning the election. He won the election, fair and square, but I think he should just sit back a little bit and still give us some more explanations before he rams free trade home with the cooperation of the Liberal Senate. So it's been a tough election, and the campaign out here was, I think, hotter on free trade on the particular issues than anywhere else in the country. Fact remains is we are now committed to it, and the Prime Minister had better step very warily as he moves towards the implementation of it. But congratulations to PM, he won it fair and square, even if he was only in British Columbia on 2 or 3 short trips throughout the campaign.
Well, Our Pamela Wallen, as a matter of fact, when she did a piece for us in British Columbia, was saying a lot of that, when you came back, you said the people in BC wanted to see more of the Prime Minister, they wanted to hear more from the Tories, and we had some people there, two fishermen talking, saying...
That's right, but Jack Webster, along with an awful lot of people, said that he could have been bought with a few more federal dollars, and that they felt their noses were out of joint a little bit.
There. Be careful how you phrase that. Not bought with a few more federal
You would have
dollars.
been happier.
The reason we got the Vancouver Island pipeline was because it was our share of the lolly that went to Ontario and Quebec.
But you were complaining it was too small a share.
That was a cynical remark pointing to the need for fair expenditures of federal money all across this country, because there is no doubt that we have been left out in the cold. And even with his vast majority, he can look at British Columbia and see how his party was massacred in British Columbia by the NDP, not by the Liberals, and be more careful about his relationships. He lost Jerry St. Germain, who was his top official after Carney, and must, with all due credit to Jerry St. Germain.
Jack, your old pal Mike Duffy has one question for you. Fast question, fast answer, all right?
The answer is no. What's the question?
Sorry, Jack, I love you, you know that. Did the relative unpopularity of Bill Vander Zalm hurt the Tories in BC tonight?
No. With straight free trade.
Thank you very much. That was a fast answer. Thanks, Jack. We are waiting for John Turner to arrive at the hotel, and we are told that he's just about there now, and when he walks in, I'm sure that people will be there with the microphones asking, what about it, Mr. Turner? Are you going to step aside? And Jack Webster has said, no way, that doesn't have to happen now. And here he is, of course, and I believe Henry Kowalski is out there with a microphone attempting... No? Oh. Alan Fryer, sorry, it's Alan Fryer.
One of their advanced people.
Alan Fryer.
And here you see Andrew the son, the youngest son, moving in.
Mr. Turner. Sir, congratulations on your winning Turner, quadra. what can you say? It was the cause of your life. You lost. Are you going to stay on, sir?
We're going to make a little statement in a minute.
Are you going to stay on? What went wrong, Mr. Turner? Why didn't you get your message across, sir?
Well, no matter what you say, you have to remember that this is a remarkable resurrection. Here is a man who's had several years in the House of Commons. What is it, 16 in total if you add them all up? He has served under 2 prime ministers. He's had 6 cabinet portfolios. And here he is now at this stage in his life, having resurrected himself after being 3rd in the polls and having something like a 9% rating on the charts as people's preference for prime minister.
And the interesting thing about John Turner, beholden to very few people in this campaign, he was the one who decided to take on that free trade cause with such a vengeance, and given all the ongoing problems inside the party, even mid-campaign, rumors about leadership problems, but he has really taken this one on and convinced, I think, an awful lot of
Ladies
people
and gentlemen,
around him that this was the cause of his life.
Right Honourable John Turner, Leader of the Liberal Party and Member of Parliament for Vancouver Quadra.
Well, finally, they have something to clap about there, and what they're clapping about is the performance of this man in this campaign, especially his performance in the television debate and the tenacity that he has shown. Boy, talk about getting knocked down and picking yourself up again and just not giving up. He's a model of that kind of tenaciousness for every Canadian alive.
If you look back to 1984, people said he would be gone then. There was a whole leadership battle in 1986, and people said he would be gone then. In the last year, there have been coup attempts, and people said he'd never fight this campaign, never mind make the kind of showing he has. It's an interesting personal development in the course of this campaign that we've seen in John Turner.
Critical moments in his life. Whenever you'd almost think he was down, he'd come up with the one great talk, the one great speech that somehow gave everybody confidence to let him try one more time.
And in this campaign, the one great issue.
One great issue. and 1 great 6 minutes in a debate.
What will the Liberal Party do now? They have John Turner with a much improved showing and standing. What happens in February? Does John Turner have to fight for the leadership of this party should he decide to stay on?
I don't think John Turner will have to fight for the leadership for this party for a couple of years. I think for a couple of years, and if he can demonstrate that he has a vision, that he can bring this party back to looking at what it really wants to accomplish in Canada, look at its inner soul, its values, where it differs from the Conservative and where they want to go, then I would suggest that people will take another look at John Turner. John Turner seems to have he's like a cat with 9 lives.
Does the party have some rethinking to do, not just the leader?
I think the party has more rethinking to do than the leader. The party seemed to want to kill the leader before the election got started. And it seems to me what the party has to do is take a look at itself.
See Mr. Turner coming up as gingerly as he can up that one step onto the stage. That pinched nerve in the back must be very painful by now after what he's been through.
Been sleeping on sheets of plywood throughout this campaign and not sleeping very much.
And by the way, not complaining.
And not complaining. He has never raised it publicly.
A lot of people said after the debate that the reason they were attracted to John Turner was because he really looked as though he felt deeply about what he was talking about. And one, I suppose, has to give credit to people like Henry Comer, who were helping him with that kind of thing, saying, find an issue you can believe in and stick with it.
The issues. The question was, could he deliver on it?
Well, he did.
Absolutely.
His toughest job was convincing Liberals he meant it. Jill Turner has been very much with John Turner throughout this campaign. There's very few days in this campaign that she has not been at his side.
And she's been an active participant, too. She has been, when someone would throw what she felt was a wrong question, she'd let them know about it.
As she did in '84.
First of all, thank you very much. Before I talk to my friends here in Quadra, of course I have a few things to say to the country. Throughout this campaign, I have promoted my vision of a strong, independent, and sovereign Canada. A Canada a Canada in charge of its own destiny. I've done so with everything I have, with all my heart, and with all my strength, and I have no regrets at all. Throughout this campaign, I have had the unique experience, unique opportunity to speak about Canada, to express my profound belief in the people of our country, and my confidence that our future must remain a Canadian future. Today, despite the fact that the Conservatives have the largest percentage of the popular vote, still a majority of Canadians have clearly expressed their wish to keep this country strong, sovereign, and independent. At the same time, they have also chosen to give the Conservative government another mandate. The Conservatives have won a majority of the seats in the House of Commons and have accordingly a right to form a government. And I believe fundamentally that people are always right. A few minutes ago, I telephoned Mr. Mulroney to assure him of my cooperation. Today, Canadians have also doubled the representation of the Liberal Party in the House of Commons. will continue to fight for our ideals and our vision of the country. We will make our presence felt, we will be vigilant, and we will be loyal to the principles of justice and equality and compassion for which this party has always fought. Now to the people of Quadra, I want to say, first of all, how much I have appreciated your support, not only today and tonight, but throughout the last 4 years. You have stood by me in good times and bad times, and I am extremely sensitive to the friendship and the loyalty and the commitment that you have given me. And to the people of Vancouver who live in this wonderful riding that starts West Point Grey and travels almost to the boundaries of Burnaby, I want to say I've appreciated that support, welcomed the people who are in the former riding of Kingsway. I have supported you, and I've supported your efforts to be part of the Canadian picture in the past. You have given me your support in return, and I will continue to represent you as best I can. Our political party, particularly the Liberal Party, both here in Quadra and across the country, is primarily a group of volunteers, of individuals who have a sense of duty and a sense of purpose for the country. And I want to thank all our workers here in Quadra, the workers in our headquarters in Ottawa, and in every campaign office in the 295 ridings across the country. I want to thank all those volunteers who made a dedicated effort on behalf of our party. And to our candidates across Canada who took our message to the doors and the living rooms of Canadians in every corner of our great country. Win or lose, you ran excellent campaigns and spirited campaigns. You can be proud, and I'm grateful to all of you for having offered to stand under the Liberal banner as Liberals in a very historic campaign. I know that my friends in Quadra particularly would allow me a personal note or two to say to Jill and to Elizabeth, who campaigned with me, to Michael and to David and Andrew, say how grateful I am to my family for the support they have given me during the last 4 years. Want to say to Jill and the family, and you all are sensitive to it, that the sacrifices of public life can be severe and can be high. But my family, I believe, can stand tall and proud in the commitment they've given our country and the support in personal terms they have given me, total support, and I couldn't have done what I did for the people of Quadra and what I've done for the people of the country without Jill and the family behind me, and I'm very grateful. Most of all, to the people of our great country, I thank you once again for your support. Thank those who have put their faith in me again today and in the Liberal Party. I will uphold the confidence you have placed in me. I will honor that trust, and I will continue to hold my country first and foremost.
During this campaign, I devoted all my energies to promoting my vision of a sovereign, autonomous Canada, master of its destiny. I did it with all my heart and in all honesty, and I have no regrets. During this campaign, I had the unique chance of talking about Canada, of expressing my profound attachment to the people of our country, and to reaffirm very loudly my confidence in its future, the future of Canada. The stake was worth it, and I have no regrets. Today, although the Conservatives have obtained a large majority, a large percentage of the vote, a majority of Canadians have nevertheless expressed their will to keep their country sovereign and independent. But at the same time, they have also chosen to give another mandate to the Conservatives. They have won a majority of the seats in Parliament, and they have deserved the right to govern our country, because, in my judgment, the people is always right. A few minutes ago, I called Mr. Mulroney over the telephone, and I assured him of our cooperation. Today, Canadians have also elected a larger number of Liberal MPs, and we are going to keep fighting for our ideals and our vision of our country. We shall be present, we shall be vigilant, and we shall be truthful to the great principles of justice and equity which we have always put forward. For the people of Quadra, for the crowd gathered here, and for all the citizens of Quadra County who once more have trusted me to represent them in Ottawa, I say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I thank you once more for your support, for your approval, and I am committing myself to represent you once more. And I wish to thank all the workers, all the supporters of our party all over the country, all those workers who worked for the Liberal Party at our Ottawa headquarters and at the riding offices all over the country. Once again, I wish to thank our candidates who carried high and loud the Liberal message. We had a very good campaign, and whatever the individual results, we can all be proud of our work. I wish to thank quite especially my family, my children, Michael, David, and Andrew, and everyone knows that political life can be very difficult, and sacrifices are very difficult once in a while, but I had the great advantage to enjoy the full support of my wife and my children. And thank you all, Canadian men and women who trusted me and who supported the Liberal Party. You can be assured that I shall continue to work hard in order to keep this confidence and this support throughout my mandate. Thank you. Good evening.
For a very, very interesting campaign. I want to say, now in personal terms, I want to say to May Brown and Peter Pierce and Sarah McAlpine and everyone who has worked
so long and thoroughly on my behalf, on behalf of the party, for the last 7, 8 weeks of the campaign. It has been a beautifully organized campaign. We have got out to meet the people of Quadra. We have welcomed the people from Kingsway who now join us. It's been a superb example of commitment to country, commitment to party, and commitment to me as your member of parliament and as your candidate. I am immensely grateful for everything everybody in this room has done. I see so many faces that are dear to me, close to me, some of them friends of a lifetime. It's been a great privilege to fight again. It's been a wonderful mark of friendship and approval that you've given me, and there's no greater honor that I've ever had in my life than to serve and to continue to serve the people of Vancouver Quadra. It's been a very, very good process. Thank you very much.
Where are you going? There's not so much as I want to read.
John Turner thanking his party workers, thanking the executive of his riding association, saying goodbye for the evening here, but no indication of any kind of imminent breakaway from the leadership of the Liberal Party.
It sounded to me like he was saying goodbye to Vancouver Quadra, quite the contrary. He restating his commitment to represent the people, said he had no regrets about this campaign, and I think served notice that he's going to keep Brian Mulroney on his toes on some of the questions of sovereignty and on this free trade deal. But a very happy man tonight. I mean, claiming that he and his party have, in a way, scored that moral victory. That words usually saved for the New Democrats in this kind of a situation, but doubled the number of seats, and he re-elected in Vancouver Quadra.
Looks self-satisfied.
Yes, well, when you consider what he has come back from, the ratings so early on in the campaign, the third place, the low rating for Prime Minister preference, and look where he is now.
And his debate in the Leaders, or his showing in the Leaders televised debate, really was a personal victory. There's very little that people can do when the man is out on the stage by himself. Either he performs or he doesn't. And he did for himself and for the party that night.
Mike, did you have some thoughts about the determination that this man has shown? You've known John Turner, I know, for a long time.
I've known John Turner probably for 18, 19, 20 years, Lloyd, and we see Doug Kirkpatrick and Steve Hastings looking around the corner trying to find a way to get him out without going near the TV cameras, but not all of his close aides have been away from the telephones. And during conversations, I wasn't ordering pizza, I promise, when I had the phone in my ear. Sometimes earlier during the broadcast, I was on talking to a number of people across the country, including people in the Turner Suite at the Hotel Vancouver. And if you want me to run through my notes, I'll give you a quick rundown of what I'm told. He was alone.
Just give us an abbreviated version of it. We're in the wrap-up mode now.
We're in the wrap-up mode, yes. Yeah. His family was alone with him in the hotel when he saw the CTV call saying that his dream of holding the Tories to a minority would not be delivered. There were some tears, but there was also a lot of hugging. And the important thing there, going back over 20 years, is that the kids are now old enough to play an important role in encouraging their father in what they think is an important thing. In the past, with any political leader, with any politician, the fact is that the family takes second place. And this time they were visibly, physically on his side. They told him he was proud of his campaign. They urged him to stay. And so far, as you've correctly pointed out, there's no sign that he's going to do anything else. He's confident that history will judge that he was on the right side of this issue.
All right, I believe Craig Oliver is standing by up in Baie-Comeau in a hall that is probably emptying out. The balloons, a few balloons undoubtedly have been broken, and Craig is still there. Craig, are you with us up in Baie-Comeau?
I am with you indeed, Lloyd. How are you?
I'm fine. Good night, Craig, and wonderful work getting the Prime Minister for us at the end there.
Well,
he greeted you like an old friend.
Lloyd, this has been a splendid campaign, and if I can just say one thing, I think what it did is, for one moment in Canadian history, it revealed a glimpse of the Canadian soul. We heard talk of patriotism and love of country. For once, we weren't embarrassed to hear those things said on all sides of the debate, and I just hope that we hear more of that talk from your fellow Canadians and mine in the years to come.
Craig, thank you very much for a wonderful job up there tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you again very shortly over coffee sometime. And we'll be talking to you, Craig. Now to Nancy Wilson and the members of the panel. Let's hear a final word.
Well, I just want to get from our pundits a sense of the message that John Turner is leaving with people. Michael, it sounds like John Turner is certainly around for some time.
Well, as I said earlier, Nancy, I thought that's the sort of thing he would say, and really what he said was that he had fought very hard for a cause he truly, passionately believes in. He feels vindicated in the sense that the party has more than doubled its number of seats. He feels that he was able to communicate his message effectively to Canadians and that there was a responsive chord struck throughout the campaign. And I think he will reflect on his future down the road, but in the meantime, he's clearly returning to Parliament to continue fighting.
There is a Liberal convention in the new year, Michael. Is John Turner serving notice? I will decide, don't rush or don't assume that we're talking leadership in the new year.
The Liberal convention, in fact, a date hasn't been set, but under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be until late next fall in any event. It would be 12 months from now, roughly. And I think on election night, it's far too early for anyone to reflect on what the future holds, certainly the long-term future.
There's actually an NDP convention, too, because there always is, and there are always leadership conventions. But I think that both these guys are entitled to write their own ticket. They'll stay if they want, and they'll go if they want. Let me remind you that one of the incentives to stay is that 4 years ago we had a night like this with, as it happens, the three parties in relatively the same position, and look where we've been since then. It wasn't always clear, as Hugh will remind us, that we were going to end up in roughly the same position. So it's anything can happen, and I bet it won't be 2 or 3 months before the Mulroney government is in some kind of trouble again.
It's interesting. You said, of course, tonight is a night that for Brian Mulroney, this is a night to savor in Baie-Comeau. But the hard work, the hangover happens tomorrow, the hard work begins. I mean, in a sense, this is the best he can expect for the next 4 years?
Well, the election night is always the night when everything seems very joyous, and the hard work and the difficult choices and the decisions about people and directions and policies begins tomorrow. I think that what you need to have in a government these days in Canada is the courage to run third in the polls when you know what you're doing is right, when you're prepared to hang tough in that respect, knowing that in the end, people will respect you for doing what you believe rather than doing what is only popular. And had we not had that courage under this Prime Minister, I don't think we would have had the success we had tonight.
Must get you to end there, but gentlemen, again, it's been a treat. Something that we can repeat in some 6 or 7 hours on Canada.
I want to fight about what Hugh said tomorrow morning.
Later. Here's Lloyd.
Get a few hours sleep. We'll see you on Canada AM. Thank you very much, members of the panel. Well, Pamela, we're coming to the end of our time. It's been a great, great night, and we have been part of history here this evening.
It has been rewritten in this country in 2 or 3 different forms tonight. Not only has Brian Mulroney come back for this second majority, but he is a Conservative, which makes it all the more sweet this time round. But we've seen some real serious and fascinating changes on the political map. An NDP breakthrough in Alberta, the Reform Party really catching on in the West, in BC and Alberta.
More Liberals west of Winnipeg.
More Liberals, and exactly. Lloyd Axworthy is now not a lone member, and the incredible Conservative showing in the province of Quebec and the very strong Liberal showing in the East Coast. We've got a really interesting political map right now.
And the Tories in trouble in Eastern Ontario, where they had held that United Empire Loyalist ground for so long. Isn't that something? Yes. Mike, a fast comment from you.
Lloyd, 7.5 hours ago when this broadcast began, we predicted we'd be seeing history. We've seen it tonight. And the next thing we're going to see is a Conservative government with a renewed mandate reaching out to solidify their hold in this country and to make what has happened for the first time only in 35 years become a permanent part of our political landscape. The next 4 years are going to be very exciting.
Mike Duffy, I want to thank you very much on behalf of all of us who've worked this broadcast tonight.
It's my pleasure.
It's been a joy having you with us. It really has. And one would like to say we'd be back in a couple of years to do this again, but obviously it's going to be 4 years.
4 years before elections, but who knows?
Who knows about conventions?
There'll be a lot of big things between now and then, and I really look forward to working with you again.
Pamela, thank you very much. It's been wonderful. And
great to participate in this kind of exercise of democracy in Canada. It started out with voting today, and watching it all through the evening from coast to coast. It is a pleasure.
And we want to thank some people upstairs who have been instrumental in helping us and guiding us along the way tonight, in the persons of Mike Huey, our director, who did a magnificent job, Jack Fleischman, our producer, Tim Kotcheff, our executive producer. Good night, and thank you for watching and being a part of this Canadian Night of History. Goodbye for now.